ready?
Yes.
Okay, the meeting will be called to order. If the secretary could note those members present and absent. Is there a motion to approve of B and C, approve of the agenda and approval of the minutes of October 21st?
Motion to approve.
Move to approve B and C. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Regular business. Number one, initial request, consideration with possible action on the request of the traffic engineer to establish two-way stop condition on Kellogg Avenue at North Broadway and at Kellogg Street on Donald Driver Way. Get my tongue working.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Dave?
As we all know, there is a development called the Rail Yard Development. And as part of that, we are having our street network extend into this area. So on the mapping system up on the screen, you won't see them on here, but I will show you that Kellogg Street will be extended to Donald Driver Way, or actually probably should be by now. Elmore is not because of this building, and then Bond Street will extend in and then to the extended Donald Driver Way. The Bond Street portion will not be in anytime soon, but Kellogg extension of Donald Driver should be open soon. And in order to establish the proper intersection traffic control upon opening and dedication of that roadway, I wanted to get these on the agenda so that we had the proper legal traffic control at those intersections. So to start at the obvious one, right now Kellogg tees into its east terminus is Broadway. So again, being extended to Donald Driver Way, this goes from a one-way stop control to a two-way stop control. So nothing's happening to Broadway, it's just that we're adding a leg to Kellogg, and that will stop, same as the existing opposite approach. Extending to the T intersection of Donald Driver Way, in essence, we're just going to replicate what we have existing at Kellogg right now and just go with the one-way stop or eastbound Kellogg at Donald Driver Way.
Right.
So it's really that simple. So it's a three-part motion is what I'm asking for. On a 90-day trial, of course, would be to remove the one-way stop at Kellogg and North Broadway and to establish two-way stop at that same intersection and a one-way stop Kellogg at Donald Driver Way.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Craig. Second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Number two, consideration possible action on the request of Alderman Stevens on behalf of St. Philip the Apostle Parish and Victoria Street residents to remove the no stopping or standing 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. school days zone on the east side of Victoria Street from Crook Street to Main Street.
There's definitely some history in this area, and I had sent an email to Mr. Bill Knoll. He actually was the original person to contact, I believe, you, Alder Stevens, and then also
I forwarded
myself.
you,
Yeah, and then, so basically it became a three-way discussion relative to Victoria Street. So at the request of the St. Philip the Apostle Church or Parish, they are requesting that the no stopping or standing 7 to 4 school day zone on the residential side of the street be removed. It's somewhat twofold in purpose, but to explain why it's there, just some real slight history, and some of you that have been on the commission may have already lived through some of this. In essence, the ELC, or the Early Learning Center, used to actually have facilities within the parish campus. They had parents parking up on both sides of Victoria Street, and kids were starting to cross mid-block, creating a dangerous situation for the buses. That's why the zone was requested, so that the crossings, the mid-block crossings, were not taking place. Now that the school is no longer there, the residents and the church are asking for it to be removed to allow for more, basically, so the residents can now park on the street when they want to, and if parishioners or anyone coming to the parish needed to park on the street, they would have the ability to do so. So
Okay.
So staff is on board with that, and Alder, I believe you are as well. So, that being said, with everyone having the same position, we are asking on a 90-day trial to remove the no stop restraining 70 on the 4 p.m. school day zone on the east side of Victoria from Crook Street to Main Street.
Is there a motion?
Motion to, second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay, the ayes have it. Item 3, consideration of possible action on the request of the traffic engineer to establish no parking zones on the inside parking lanes of Skyline Boulevard in the one-way pair segments due to narrowness.
Yes. I was gonna, I put these two together, 3 and 4, not that they are gonna have the same motion, but because they are in the same area. If you recall from the last meeting, there was a referral staff study for a speed study of Skyline Boulevard. When I do these studies, I look into many different things, characteristics of the neighborhood, physical features, and of course, traffic and parking regulations. As part of that discovery was that the signs did not match the ordinance, the parking regulations in the ordinances book. So that being said, all I'm really doing here, in essence, is trying to make the ordinance book reflect what we have in the field. It's really that area, I believe it's right up in this area. These one-way pairs, long story short, they're very narrow. And due to the narrowness, there is parking restricted on the inside of that. And then basically the residential sites have parking available for obvious reasons, being next to the homes. Now, in this area, both sides were signed, and I did not find the ordinance to reflect that. So that's all I'm doing is stating that. And I believe the reason that it was signed on both sides was probably proximity to Preble Park, and if there was ever events there and the parking lot became full, that it was probably spilled back onto the street, and it was just probably not in a real good spot to have parking. So that's my only assumption at this point in time, but I see it being proper and being fine. And so in essence, like I said, just looking at really making the ordinance books reflect what we have in the field. So that being said, on a 90-day trial, I am asking to A, remove the no parking zone on both sides of the east roadway, Skyline Boulevard, from a point 160 feet north of Sunrise Circle to Sunrise Circle. That in and of itself was a typo. Circle is actually court, so that was actually a technicality in the ordinances I wanted to fix. Then to establish a no parking zone east side of the west roadway, Skyline Boulevard, from Finger Road to a point 160 feet north of Sunrise Court. Also to establish no parking zone on the west side of the east roadway, Skyline Boulevard, from Finger Road to a point 160 feet north of Sunrise Court. So basically both sides here. And then to establish a no parking zone on the east side of the east roadway, Skyline Boulevard, from Sunrise to 150 or 160 feet north of Sunrise. In essence, what we have right here is, what I'm saying in short, this left side, if you want to call it that, or the west side, it's going to have a restriction, no restriction here, and both sides up here. That's what I just said is a fancy way of that, saying that. So
Okay.
that's what staff is recommending.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? The ayes have it. Number 4, to refer to staff a speed study of Skyline Boulevard between Finger Road and Hillside Lane.
Didn't actually have the report attached, I apologize, to the agenda packet, but I can probably summarize it up quite easily for you without boring you with the details, because I've already divulged some of the report, at least the characteristics and some of the narrowness of the roadways in that location. The original request came in, I believe it was for 6 speed limit signs, speed limit 25 signs. And at the last meeting, as you know, I made a recommendation to not necessarily go with that recommendation, simply because the remainder of the neighborhood and the streets, based off of our GIS database, showed that there really wasn't any signs anywhere around there anyway, unless you're coming off of a higher speed facility. However, if there are speeding problems, that's something that we want to know, and if so, potentially that could show a need for the speed limit 25 signs. So what I did is I broke this up into the areas that I could collect. So I'll probably just show you, I think I have a PDF of the report here. Let's go to the M19 shortcut. And here we go to the memo. So show you where we actually, here's some photographs of where the actual survey took place. Well, I guess I can show you these pictures before I show you the map. So this is southbound Skyline Boulevard at Preble Park. So this is really kind of going up the hill. The park's up on the left. This is just, right behind us is Hillside Lane. In this area, literally just turned right around, took a picture. So there's Hillside Lane. We're looking north of the street that comes one way. This is actually the two-way section here before it splits. Then after it splits, this is going to be between Sunrise and Finger, looking south. So as you can see, we do have the narrowness of this roadway here. And then northbound, right across, pretty much where it is, that last one was, here's northbound between Finger and Sunrise Court. Of course, I always look at crashes, and I didn't find anything that were contributory to speed or anything. The only thing that we found is that during the construction of this year, there was a construction-related crash. So again, I just wanted to emphasize that because it really had nothing to do with normal activities of the neighborhood. So you might as well say, when the roadway is open to traffic, that there really has been no crash history at all. Vehicle speeds, again, we just looked at the pictures. So those first set of pictures were here, looking up and down the hill. This is the third picture, looking southbound one way, and then we had northbound here. Because this is one way southbound, this is one way northbound. And here's the summary of it. So I like to break it down in weekday and weekend. Oftentimes people complain of speeds, one time frame or another. But overall, because I do a speed study, I like to get an overall average of both weekday and weekend. So to look at the average speed, you had 24 miles an hour at all three locations when you put them together. 50 percentile speed, meaning 50% of the traffic is going 25 or less. 85 percentile speed, or 85% of the traffic or less, is going 30 miles an hour, and the 95th percentile, meaning 95% of the traffic is going 34 or less. The lower and upper paces, basically 21 to 31. When looking at the 85th percentile, being 30, and at the upper pace, I like to look at 85th and upper pace, because your 85th should be close to, but not exceed the upper pace, so that's actually a good indication. And then you can see your daily volume. So we're hovering around 1,000 to 1,100 vehicles per day at these roadways. As for every speed study that I conduct, I like to run U.S. limits 2 federal highways analysis on it. That takes in a lot of different roadway characteristics, road type, access points, ped bike facilities, crash history, etc. Driveway spacing, and it came up with 25 miles an hour. Really no surprise, being a residential street. Any sort of discussion here? This really just kind of goes over some of the small details that we had relative to weekday versus weekend. So saw weekday to weekend 24 to 25. So really like about a 1 mile an hour difference. To me, that statistically is insignificant. So we're running about the same for both weekday and weekend. So no significant changes that way. I like to also compare it to our neighborhood traffic calming policy, which is approved in 2007 by Common Council. In essence, what I'm looking at is 85th and 95th percentile shouldn't be exceeding 32 and 35. So when I look at the neighborhood speeds, they were under that, although some of the detail, which I don't present in this report summary, actually one of the segments actually came up 33 and 37, which would actually, if we were simply just looking at that one segment, would have exceeded it, and it would have qualified for the neighborhood traffic calming program. So that being said, my only conclusions really at this point in time, that we really don't need any additional engineering measures, especially given that we've got very narrow roadways. However, I think speed limit sign could help reduce speed in the area that we have that exceeds the thresholds as defined in the neighborhood traffic calming policy. So my recommendation is threefold. Number one, to receive and place on file the report I presented. Number two, to install speed limit 25 sign on the east roadway, or the northbound one-way east roadway of Skyline Boulevard, just north of Finger Road. So between Finger and Sunrise, I think a speed limit sign is warranted. And then, if possible, if the police department could enforce the speed limit at 25 mile an hour in that same segment. Some of the thoughts that I had on this, and I know I ran it by Lieutenant Strouf, which we were just playing phone tag on this kind of a little bit, but just given the geometry, the grades, the very wide median and everything, I'm not an enforcement officer, but one of my observations was it potentially could be difficult to enforce just because there's really not any really good place to sit. And I guess with that, I really would just rather have, I'd rather defer that to the police department and Lieutenant Strouf to get an opinion.
Okay. Any questions?
So one side's speed is higher than the other side.
Yes.
Is that going downhill or uphill?
Surprisingly uphill.
Uphill.
I thought it was going to be the other way around, and I had to double check with our people that made the observations, and there was no blunder in the data, so I was actually kind of surprised. So it is what it is, and the only thing I could be a suspect of would be because Mason to Finger, and sometimes people drive Finger Road more like a collector arterial sometimes, and they're coming off of that and taking a turn and going onto the street, so. That's really the only one. I mean, all the other feeder streets or the other segments are all 25, so that was the only thing I could think of potentially was the cause on that, so I have no problem, given that we have a documented speed problem or issue or an excessive, what I think are reasonable numbers to actually put that sign in. And then, of course, engineering is only one part, so that's why you see recommendation number 3, if possible, for the enforcement component. So if we had a combination of the two, it probably would make some sort of an impact on reducing speed.
So will we put a sign on both sides then, even though it's a split? One going down the hill, one going up the hill? I think the
It's not
residents,
required, I'm simply trying to take care of a problem,
which is going uphill.
which was actually going up. So, if we don't have, anything in excess of those numbers, I think people are just doing it just because they're doing it intentionally. So that's more, again, of an enforcement issue. I mean, it's the commission's ruling on how they would like to see it signed. I'm just simply giving my recommendation.
I would recommend that we do it on both sides of that so it's uniform. One going up and one going down.
Yeah, we
That
can
would
do
be my
that.
recommendation.
You want to consider that a friendly amendment to the request of the traffic engineer?
Correct, along with these
So my
other.
recommendations stay
Yeah.
the same, it's
The
just
three
the
items.
commission can
Right.
make a
Along
motion
with that
that
recommendation.
amends
of
the
Alderman.
recommendation.
Number
Okay, is that a motion?
Motion.
Okay, is there a move? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
So number 2, we're amending to install the speed limit on both sides.
Yeah, both.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in essence, what you're getting is, it's really kind of a 4-part motion. So we're keeping number 2 there, but then I'm saying to install, or you're saying to install speed limit sign on the west roadway of Skyline Boulevard, just south of Suncrest. That's the way I'm going to write it, but that's what you're asking, so.
Okay. 5 through 8 are termination requests. Is there anything that we need to discuss at length here, David?
Nope, these are, all of these are relative to Barrett Elementary, the changes that were done because of the school.
Right.
And really just to make the parking zones compliant with the new configuration. So far, so good. I haven't heard any complaints, nor have we seen anything out of the ordinary, because we actually did some studies. We did that crossing guard study under these conditions. So staff has seen that they're working, haven't heard anything, any negative feedback from the school. I haven't heard anything from Ken. I have housing guard, you know, administrator who works for police department, so I'm presuming everything has been working just fine.
Okay, is there a motion to approve 5 through 8?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. No meeting in December?
That is correct per the request of Chairman Kuipers or Keepers. So unless anyone else wants to meet.
Well, I do have a concern because you have information, under informational, you have January 2nd, 2019.
Oh, look at that.
I'm not coming
Catch.
back.
You're not, you don't wanna be, you don't wanna be Michael J.
You wanna relive
Fox?
that
No.
meeting?
Okay.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved, second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, the ayes have it. See, we did it in a half hour. So Dave can go to